I'm going to go further on the Bundy Ranch, okay, or the Oregon guys, militia. So, and now white people.
Bear in mind, they're still there. There's still a bunch of them there.
Yeah, okay. Some of the families have now left, but there's still some nut jobs that are holed up there. Okay. Now, bear in mind, white right-wingers now are going to lose their minds, okay, when I say this. But in this country, what have white right-wingers done forever? Go take other people's property, right? And they do it with arms. So if you're a Native American, well, and you're in our way, we're going to murder you and we're going to take your stuff, okay? We're going to take your land, and we're going to call that manifest destiny, okay? Now, it wound up forming this country. I love this country, and so I understand that it's a mixed bag, and it goes back into history, and it's harder to judge in a historical context. But if you're talking about the people who are violent in this country, if you're talking about the thugs and the savages of this country, it is white right-wingers who then enslaved African Americans and made them work for free for them. I'm not going to pay you. I'm going to enslave you. I'm going to rape you. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to lynch you, and I'm going to make you work for me. You know who does that? A savage, a fucking thug does that. And the South was littered with them. The entire South didn't treat African Americans as human beings. They enslaved them.
Until sometime in the 2020s, we're hoping.
Yeah, okay. Now, you go down the list of every single transgression on a macro scale, and what do you have? You have white right-wingers, and they take other people's stuff, and including their human beings, including their kids, including their wives. They take them, they use them as they wish, and then if you say, hey, wait a minute, maybe we shouldn't do that. And during the Civil War, they thought, the South genuinely believed that you were taking their freedom away to own other human beings. They're like, well, that's my freedom. I'm white. I get to do anything I want. That's the history of this country. That's not necessarily the today of this country. There's not lynchings. There's not slavery. We understand that, right? But if you don't think that's the history of this country, well, you're stupid. You're an ignorant person. That's exactly the history of this country. Christopher Columbus came in, raped all of the natives, and then murdered them, okay? First in Hispaniola, then in the Americas. The conquistadors did that, and Columbus and his men did that. And then we did it to Native Americans on a macro scale. Then we did it to African Americans, and then we did it over and over and over again. And now, the vestiges of that, it is not the same thing, but the vestiges of that is these Bundy guys who get to go around saying, I don't get it, man. Why are these authorities bothering us when the history of my culture is I take your shit and I make it my own and I do it with weapons, and if you don't like it, I murder you. That's my history. That's my culture. Then you tell me there's something wrong with black culture? That's what Fox News tells me every day. There's something wrong with black culture. No, I'm here to tell you something outrageous, because it's outrageous because it's so fundamentally true. In this country, there's been a history of something deeply wrong with white culture, white right-wing culture that says everything is mine. I don't care if it's your baby. I don't care if it's your wife. I don't care if it's human beings. I don't care if it's your land. It's mine. I steal it. I take it. And if you complain, I murder you. That is the culture in this country. You can't argue with it because it's a fucking fact, okay? So don't come to me and talk to me about black culture. Now, are white people that live in this country right now guilty of that? Of course not. You weren't around during slavery. You weren't around during Columbus's times. I'm not charging you with it. But I'm asking you to be cognizant of that history and that culture so that when assholes like the one Bundy guys go and take stuff that isn't theirs and then get surprised, 3 weeks later, the cops decided to maybe arrest us.
Yeah.
Well, that's the culture and the vestiges of that culture. So let us defeat that. But more important than taking white privilege away is, can we get decency and respect for every American so that a black person who's unarmed doesn't get shot immediately, because your assumption is if a guy like Bundy does it, well, then he had every right to do it. But if a kid like Tamir Rice does it, well, then I was scared. I mean, it's a black guy or it's a black kid. I had every right to be scared because those savages. Don't fucking talk to me about that. If you want to talk about a culture that has been deeply violent in this country, we know which one it is, and it ain't the black culture.